Welcome to Grounded Wellness, your go-to podcast for simplified and trusted information on how to live a more non-toxic and holistic life. We're your hosts. I'm Bethany McDaniel, founder of Primally Pure, biohacking enthusiast and mom of 3.
And I'm Courtney O'Connor, holistic esthetician with over 15 years experience in the healing power of touch and holistic skincare rituals.
Courtney and I had the pleasure of sitting down with our in-house formulator, Tommi Hutchins. Tommi is a wealth of knowledge on everything you need to know about greenwashed products, responsible formulation, educating people on safe ingredients, healthy choices for fertility, and both the benefits and the dangers of essential oils. Let's dig in. Tommi, welcome to the farm. It's so nice to have you here.
I'm so excited. So great that we can all be together.
I know, it's a beautiful day. Animals are close, but kind of keeping their distance.
Barefoot on the soil. Well, Tommi, I'm so excited to just jump right in. There has been this growing movement against essential oils, specifically in the skincare world. And just to address the elephant in the room, obviously at Primally Pure, we use a lot of essential oils in our products. So we would love to hear from your perspective why you think there's been this growing resistance against essential oils in skincare specifically.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great question. Essential oils are amazing. They're plant-derived, obviously, and people have been using them for thousands of years for beneficial purposes. And I think the problem that we're seeing is that people are using them incorrectly. And companies sometimes will formulate them irresponsibly. And what that can do is lead to adverse reactions that people may experience, and that gives them a bad rap and a bad name. And so there's pushback. And in reality, what the smarter thing to do would be to step back and say, let's look at how we're using these materials. I mean, they really are wonderful materials, but they have definite benefits, but can also be overused or used inappropriately. And I think that's where they can sometimes get a bad rap.
Tell us a little bit about your background and training and experience with natural ingredients and essential oils.
Yeah, so degree in chemistry, but knew nothing about natural products. And my first job out of college was actually working for one of the pioneers in the natural world, Tom's of Maine, and just got hired on as a junior level formulation chemist. And it was that place where I learned not only how to be a cosmetic chemist, but what natural means. Back then, this was such a new concept for the world of ingredients to be able to even find materials that you could use that would meet our needs to be something that we would consider natural.
Yeah, they were very early to market. There were not a whole lot of natural brands back then.
No, not at all. So I think they were founded in the 70s and I started in 2003, but the beautiful thing that I learned there was how to source ingredients. So to know what questions to ask the suppliers. How are these processed? Where is it coming from? You know, and we would pay more money to buy materials that were minimally processed. And so I really learned a lot about asking those in-depth questions. I'm sure the suppliers didn't love talking to me because I had lots of questions because it just wasn't a thing yet, right? Now it's actually amazing to be able to find the ingredients that I can that are considered natural. So that's where it started. And then ever since then, this has pretty much been my career. And it's fun to try to create something using materials that you wouldn't expect would do another function, right? In a formula that are natural, that you might get it to work like a more conventional material. And so having to be really creative and investigate other solutions for ingredients can be really fun. And so I've spent my career doing that.
Yeah, so traditional training for cosmetic chemistry does not include anything on natural formulations or natural ingredients.
I would say 20 years ago when I was in college, I mean, I have a degree in chemistry and I have made this my life's work to be a cosmetic chemist, but I wouldn't say that it's something that's focused on. Now there may be more certifications you could possibly get in it, but it has really been a labor of learning and teaching myself and never kind of stopping in that pursuit of trying to find natural alternatives.
Yeah.
Tommi, when you were a kid, did you play around with formulations? Like, was that something you were drawn to as a child?
That's actually really funny. So no, I wasn't. But I do remember vividly when I was a teenager in the shower, I would always flip over that shampoo bottle and try to read it and try to see if I could say these really complicated words. And I was
Normal kid things.
Is that not normal? Apparently I was meant to be a chemist, because I remember at the bottom, there were these 2 ingredients that were very long, and one of them was methylchloroisothiazolinone.
The fact that you couldn't even
I can't believe you remember that.
I always remembered it. And I always thought, what is that? Like, what is it in there?
Totally.
Like, what does that even do? Yeah. But there was no, this totally dates me. There was no Google. Like, I couldn't just go find that. What am I going to do as a 15-year-old to figure that out? So I just had to always be curious. And I remember the day that I saw that when I worked, I believe it was at Tom's of Maine, that was something we would never use because it's a very bad preservative. And it just clicked for me. And it was like this full circle, like, oh my gosh, amazing. All those years I wondered what that was, and now I knew. So
I think it's so interesting to think about our interests as a child and then how they play into our career as adults. Because I know, Courtney, you used to host spa days for, I think, your neighborhood friends as a kid.
I would charge them $6 for a full spa day in my basement. And you were making lip balms.
Yeah, I was making lip balms out of Crisco and food dye as a child. So I love that you were also, maybe not doing it as a business, but your brain was already kind of wired towards having a curiosity about that.
Yeah.
So then did you pursue that in high school?
No, actually, funny story. I did very bad in high school chemistry, so much so that my teacher said, you probably shouldn't take physics next year. I was so bad in it. And it's hysterical because I went on to have a degree in
That was
chemistry.
your motivation to be like, I'm
Yeah.
going to do this.
Did you want to prove her wrong?
Yeah. I remember graduating and going back to a friend's graduation at the high school and wanting to find him. And I did. And I said, hey, guess what? I got my degree in chemistry. So
What did he say?
I don't think he remembered.
Yeah. He's like, what?
Who are you? Yeah. But it was just,
Why are you telling me this?
good for you. Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Circling back to essential oils. So how are essential oils made? I don't think most people are familiar with the different methods that essential oils are either extracted or distilled. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. So there's quite a few different ways that essential oils can be made. I'll kind of talk maybe about 3 of them. So the first would be the one that's most used is distillation. And so what they do is you take the plant material that you're going to be distilling or turning into or taking the essential oils out of. And this can be flowers, this can be leaves, sticks, buds from whatever the plant material is that you're choosing. And it gets steam passed through it. And the steam essentially takes all the oils that's in the plant material, and they're volatile. They volatilize, which basically means they vaporize and they rise up with the steam. This then goes through a process of condensation. So it goes through a spiral that's cold. It's cooled on the outside, and that steam turns back into water. And what happens is that whole mixture lands in a vessel and the oil floats to the top. And so then the oil is taken off and then the water is left at the bottom. The water is hydrosols, which also have beautiful uses in skincare and other things. But that's how the oil is taken. And so distillation is a very natural, easy way to process something. So that's one option. Another one that's used for some materials is solvent extraction. And this is where you take sometimes materials that you wouldn't really want, and you put the plant material in there. Hexane is one of them, chemicals, and it pulls the oils out. So these are oils that I wouldn't necessarily want to use because they've been solvent extracted.
And there can be residue, or are the oils damaged by those chemicals sometimes?
It could be, and there could be residual. And I think just for me, the use of it, why use it? Yeah. There's other options, right? The other one that's really interesting to me is CO2 extraction, or carbon dioxide extraction. And what they do is they take the plant material and they take carbon dioxide, which is what we exhale, right? It's what plants use to inhale, essentially. And they take carbon dioxide and they put it under pressure, and it goes from that gas state down to a liquid because there's so much pressure. And the plant material kind of rolls around in there, and then they release the pressure slowly, and it pulls the oils with it, and they're able to collect the oils. And the really interesting thing about CO2 extraction is that it's never heating the plants. And so you're actually getting a much cleaner, more true to source extract than even distillation, because the plants aren't being heated to get to it. And so those CO2 extracts are usually thicker, richer in color. They're a little bit different. They can be a little tricky to work with as a formulator, but we figure it out. So, yeah.
There's so much confusion about essential oils right now. So I'm going to read some common claims or ways of thinking about essential oils, and I want to hear your honest thoughts in like a 20-second or 60-second, whatever, elevator pitch for each of these.
All right.
Okay. Essential oils are too strong and can cause someone to develop allergies over time.
So this can be both true and also a little bit of a misunderstanding. So essential oils are highly potent materials. And even I kind of go with the thought that just because it's natural doesn't mean you can use as much of it as you want, right? Even too much water can be bad for a person. So the same is true for these highly concentrated extracts. Under the correct use, essential oils have a wonderful place to be able to use on a daily basis. If you are going to repetitively use the same material over and over again, you could get to a place where you could develop an allergy to it. Think, for example, of a massage therapist using the same oil on their hands 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. But that's where you just have to take that into consideration and say, if I'm going to use these materials, I need to use them responsibly and understand what I'm using. They're potent. That's why we use them. So you have to use them responsibly.
Yeah, they're medicinal.
They're medicinal.
So, yeah. What about the claim that essential oils can cause skin irritation or acne?
Yeah. So irritation and acne is another one that it can. I mean, if you're using oils that you are sensitive to, right? And there are some oils that you should never use on your skin, possibly if you have sensitive skin, or if you use too much of it. For example, I would never put a hot oil like cinnamon bark oil diluted straight on my skin. I think that would absolutely cause an irritation. Yeah. So it's understanding these materials and then choosing them appropriately and using them in the right way.
Okay, what about people who say that essential oils oxidize too easily, which makes them unfit to use in skincare products?
Love this question because the chemist in me comes out a little bit, but they do. They are delicate, fragile materials that are taken out of plants. These aren't synthetic. They're meant to be they need to be protected from oxidation in order to maintain their benefit, right? And so that's where, as a formulator and even someone who sources these raw materials, I have to take that into account. As soon as the oil is extracted from the plant, it will start aging if not handled appropriately. And it even still will age. Yeah. Everything is going to age.
Normal.
It's natural. Yeah. So we have to protect it by keeping it in a lower temperature, not exposing it to light, adding an antioxidant if necessary. And the same is true.
Dark containers.
Yeah,
right?
The containers that we're using, all of this needs to be taken into account. And then that carried through into the formula so that I'm adding a natural antioxidant like vitamin E to protect the formula from oxidizing. It's a start to finish thing.
What about essential oils that are phototoxic? What's your take on those? Should they be avoided completely, or is there a place for them?
Yeah, I think there is a place for them. I think, again, you just have to know what you're working with. There are certainly oils that are phototoxic. They contain compounds called furocoumarins that can cause phototoxicity if you're in the presence of UV light. So I recommend using those in your home in diffusing, right? That's fine. Or if it's something you're going to use at night and not be out in the sunshine until the next day, or you're going to shower in the morning. There are in
really like diluted amounts.
Diluted amounts, and that should be fine. And then there's also options for some of these oils where those compounds have been removed and the rest of the oil is still intact.
Yeah.
You can choose.
Which is the case for our bergamot oil that we use in some of our clarifying products.
Yes, it's had the bergaptine removed, which is beautiful, and it's still an amazing oil. So
What I'm hearing you say is that essential oils are powerful, they're medicinal compounds, and they should be handled with a lot of respect and understanding, and there's just a lot of context and nuance that comes with using them properly.
absolutely, yeah.
Tommi, are there any essential oils that should never be used under any circumstance at all?
So one that just comes to mind is sassafras, which sounds really,
Yes.
I've honestly
Such a funny
never
word.
seen it because I would have never used it. There's that, but that's just across the board. But I think, again, in terms of respecting the oils and responsibly using them, there also needs to be a deep understanding about, if I have a medical condition, are there oils that might not be appropriate for me to use? If I have high blood pressure, I'm taking medication, do I have diabetes or seizures? There are specific essential oils that should be avoided in those circumstances. And so that's why we always say, talk with your doctor and then maybe reach out to a certified aromatherapist.
Because a doctor probably won't know. I mean, we say that to people too, because in an ideal world, the doctor would know
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
what herbs to avoid for certain conditions,
Yeah.
but I doubt there are many that understand that.
I totally agree with you. And it is too bad. That's why I think having either an aromatherapist and then starting to do research on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where would you recommend people go for that? Dr. Google? Are there any specific websites or places that you found to be helpful?
I have a book that is like my go-to. It's called the Essential Oil Handbook, Safety Handbook. It's by Robert Tisserand, and it is full of all the knowledge. There's a lot of sciencey stuff in there, but if you break it down, it gives you usage recommendations, daily, topical, ingestion, what to avoid, what's safe, what's not, what indications, if you have seizures or something else, what to avoid. It's really an invaluable resource. So,
do you think that sometimes people can go a little bit overboard in vetting, like, okay, I can't use products that have any lavender because I'm breastfeeding and I heard somewhere that I shouldn't use product. Like, I think that in my head, some of these concerns are very valid when it comes to using products like directly on the skin or potentially like ingesting an essential oil. But when it comes to essential oils that are diluted in a product in a safe percentage, like, are there some percentages across the board that it's just like it's pretty safe?
yeah, no, that's a great question. I definitely always say, if you're going to use essential oils on your skin, it has to be diluted.
Yeah.
You have to put it in a carrier oil. It's just unsafe to do otherwise. Same thing with ingestion. Only do that under the care of someone who's a naturopath or someone who's an aromatherapist who's able to walk you through it. And that can get you into a situation where you could run into a problem with an allergy or an irritation or something if you don't know what you're doing. That's not the same thing as a formulated product. If you have a company making a product who thinks about these and is formulating responsibly, then they're going to be paying attention to the dermal maximum that someone should use, the amount that you can put on your skin in a day, and they're going to formulate the product to be less than that. And not even just that, how is this product used? Are we telling someone to use it twice a day? Then I need to cut it in half in the formula, right? So it's that responsible formulation. And in those cases, I think you can look at materials that you might have been concerned about otherwise and say, all right, I can use this because it's in a different form,
Right.
and it's in there in a very dilute amount.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that matters a lot. And then, so what checks and balances do you kind of keep in mind when you are formulating products that have essential oils and even thinking about products that may be used like on top of one another or in conjunction with one another within a routine?
Yeah, so it's exactly that. So I'm looking at the very first thing I do when I start to bring essential oils into a formula is I think about what's going to be effective, right? First, and then what's going to also make it smell nice or have an aromatherapeutic benefit. So that's number one. And then at what levels can I use these materials safely? And I use that reference that I talked about, and I have a couple others that I would reference, but I look into the research, the studies that have been done, and I decide this is going to be used X amount of times a day, or if it's in a bath, I've even gone so far as to calculate the average bathtub size in America. And let's make sure that this bath soak that I'm making is going to still have an appropriate level of oil.
This is why you're the best formulator in the world.
That was a fun project. So how do I find this out? But you have to do that. So those are the checks that I put in place.
Yeah, I love that. So as a fertility coach, for those of you listening, Tommi is also a fertility coach. She's a woman that wears many, many hats. I know that you have so much knowledge on the female body, and I love that you consider this in all of the formulations that you create. Tell us about pregnancy and essential oils. What are your thoughts on using essential oils during pregnancy?
So super passionate about this. Certain essential oils are just fine. And there's research to show that, and they can actually be beneficial. And then there are certain essential oils you should not use when you are pregnant. They can have impacts on either if it's earlier on in the pregnancy when the baby is really starting to develop and genetic things can be impacted. There are certain oils that can have a genetic impact. And then other oils directly can impact the uterine lining, which can cause miscarriage. So there's different ways that some oils impact the ability for that baby to survive and thrive. And so there are oils. And so we try to develop products that don't include those materials. On the flip side, there are oils that can be super beneficial for pregnant women. At one point, I was studying to become an aromatherapist. Moved away from that job, and so only got about halfway through before it was done. But I did an amazing research project, and it was just about this topic. And I saw it was a meta-analysis they did of a whole bunch of studies that had been done to show the long-term impact on children and their outcomes when their mothers had used lavender oil and other calming essential oils during pregnancy, and saw that there was a measurable impact in children's outcomes positively, and the theory is when you're using relaxing lavender, chamomile, relaxing essential oils, you are reducing stress, and stress can have a direct impact on female hormones, right? Cortisol, that stress hormone, directly impacts estrogen and other hormones in our system. And so by reducing cortisol through the use of aromatherapy, these women's stress levels were lower, and there was a positive impact on their children later on. So there's a place for them.
That's so cool. It makes so much sense.
And knowing their impact on hormones, are there any specific essential oils, maybe the couple that you just mentioned, but that you personally use in your work as a fertility coach with your clients?
I have recommended in the past to some clients who I can see might need a little bit of support, especially in the stress and anxiety. Many of the women that I work with are struggling with infertility, and we're trying to get to the bottom of their reproductive health issues, get to the root cause so we can help heal them. And sometimes that's stress. Sometimes that's inflammation. Sometimes could be a host of things. And so there is absolutely a place for that. Also, our cycle soothing spray that we have there, I very intentionally formulated the oils that are in there. Rose oil especially is known to help. There's been some studies to show that it can help reduce the intensity of cramping. So there is a place for this, and I have used that.
It's beautiful. Yeah. It's so cool to see how your work aligns and merges to just enhance all that you're doing.
I want to jump to a new topic, and that is greenwashing.
Okay.
Tell us what you know about greenwashing, what it is, and how it's affecting consumers.
Yeah. Greenwashing is a term I remember learning probably about 10 years ago, was that when it's kind of started to come out. And I remember thinking, what's going on with that? So greenwashing is essentially taking a product and making it sound natural and marketing it in a way, maybe adding a couple really nice natural ingredients, and then communicating that to the consumer as though it's now the supernatural product. So, yeah.
Before it was called greenwashing, can you think back to that first moment when you realized this product is not actually as clean as the marketing claims it to be?
Yeah, I can. I remember in particular, it was towards the beginning when I was learning how to make the ingredient decks that goes on the back of packages. I make those, and learning about placement of materials. So those descend. So whatever's most in the product is at the top and it goes down. But when you get to 1%, they can be in any order. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so that is great. And it can sometimes help with, if you have mica in there for color, you could put it to the bottom because maybe it's not that important of a material. You don't have to, it's up to the company. But some companies will use this to almost be sneaky, because you can add a lot of materials under 1% that are really natural, but you might be putting them in at 0.0001% of the formula. And then you can put it all the way up the ingredient deck and it looks like it's right in the middle. There must be a lot of it.
Yes.
And that is, I saw that with, I think it was a shampoo again. The front label, I think it said like, with olive oil or almond oil, is some like, okay, this looks pretty green, pretty natural. But then when I flip it over as a cosmetic chemist, I look at it and I see materials that I know would not be used more than 1 to 2% in a formula, but greater than 1. And so if I saw them and then saw a whole bunch of ingredients right underneath it, I know that they're all less than 1%. And that's when I realized this is so sneaky. They're not
interesting, because
Yeah.
I knew that the ingredients were ordered from greatest to least, but I didn't realize that under 1% you can put them in whatever order.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
And that's why I feel like this information is so valuable, because you knew that as a chemist, but like for the common consumer, we think, oh, it's on the list.
Yeah.
It's included, it's included, it's benefiting, but in reality that may not be the case.
Yeah, and I even remember I went to a Society of Cosmetic Chemists event, like a function conference, and there was a speaker there who's a cosmetic chemist, kind of well known. And he was speaking about formulating in the new natural world, right? So this was probably about 10 years into my career. And I was kind of sitting in the back just thinking, okay, this isn't new to me, but this is great that they're talking about it. And someone did ask a question, how do we as cosmetic chemists, and these were mostly traditional chemists in the room, formulate in this new natural world and still get the product to work and have, get all the benefits that they think you can't do naturally? And the person giving the talk answered, well, you can just, it's what we call greenwashing, and you can just add a little bit at the bottom.
So he was recommending this as something that everyone should be, wow,
Yeah.
that's wild.
Yeah, so that to me was an eye-opening experience of realizing, okay, what I'm doing is totally different. But then how do we always make sure people understand that, right? Because when the playing field gets so full of other people greenwashing, you have to find a way to help communicate to people you're doing different.
Right. And I feel like at Primally Pure, we are the antithesis of greenwashing, and it's something that we talk about a lot, and it's something that we try to educate customers on like what things to look for. But was this ever acknowledged in other companies that you've worked with in the past?
I've been so blessed to work for really good natural companies who are doing what they say. I will say Primally Pure is the most natural brand I've ever worked for, and it's really fun. I love it. It stretches my my creative brain. But I have consulted. I've acted as a consultant for a number of years as well for a lot of brands around the country, developing products here and there. And I have certainly come across some companies who would ask, can we just put a little bit of this in it just to make it, it's on the label? And I would communicate, we can do this. This is your company, but I want you to know it's not going to be doing anything, really.
Right.
And once I hand it off, it's in their hands and they get to make that decision. But for sure, it happens.
Like when they say, oh, we want to put aloe in this product.
Yep.
I did a video on the green aloe gels over the summer. I used to use those all the time, like to treat, after being in the sun, thinking that I'm doing something great for my skin, just rubbing aloe all over, and they're nice and green. And really on the label, at least in the one that I looked at, aloe was like the 10th or 11th ingredient in the product, buried under like water, alcohol, all kinds of preservatives. So that is one greenwashing trick that I think we see a lot of, like made with X ingredient, but then there's a very small amount of that ingredient in the actual product.
Exactly.
What are some other greenwashing tactics that either of you guys have seen on the market and that you've just felt are like really, really sneaky and shady?
One I see a lot that I try to also educate people on is made with essential oils.
Yeah.
Because I think the chemical fragrance is beginning to be more well known if that's something we want to avoid. So we speak to a lot, look for a fragrance that's made with only essential oils. But even with candles, because we talk about that a lot, it'll say infused with essential oils, but that doesn't mean that that's the pure fragrance, like the pure notes of the fragrance in the product.
Right.
So I'll look on the back,
Like it'll
and still have fragrance listed among a couple other essential oils, but that doesn't mean that fragrance is not included, even though it says made with, which is true to an extent, but.
Yeah,
I would agree. I would agree. And I think the other thing is certifications. There's so many certifying agencies out there, and some of them can just be so helpful for consumers who are just trying to navigate this world and don't understand. But they can also be used by companies to, some of the certifications are more natural than others. And I think if you, as a consumer, don't know which one is going to be the most natural, it makes it a little bit harder because you're trusting, oh, this has this great little seal. It tells me it's fine. I think understanding your brand and really understanding like who you're buying your stuff from really matters.
Yeah, there are so many different strategies that companies are using these days. And I think a lot of people, if they see the front of a label and it has all these little icons of the different certifications, and maybe it says all natural, which anyone can put on anything.
Yes.
There's absolutely no one checking that.
Yeah.
And they think that they're getting something that's going to be really good for them. But you just have to read, you have to look at the back of the label always. You cannot rely on the front of the product to know whether or not the product is safe or not.
Even the claims like dermatologist tested, like it doesn't actually mean that they've approved it.
Right.
It just means that they've tried it.
They've literally swabbed it on
just
their
put it
skin,
on. Yeah.
and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I think even filler ingredients, like a lot of skincare brands, I've seen this since I started Primally Pure, the first ingredient in a product like a body butter or a balm or any kind of a serum, oftentimes it's safflower oil, which is an industrial seed oil. And it's listed first, so we know that it's making up the bulk of the product. And then maybe they have some other, more high-end, potent, effective oils below that. But it just makes you wonder, like, what % of that product is safflower oil? Like a toxic oxidized oil that you're then slathering onto your skin.
So on that ingredient note, Tommi, was there an ingredient or product that you started working with that made you realize, oh, this can be both effective and natural at the same time?
Yeah. Two come to mind. One at the start of my career and one since I've started here at Primally Pure. The first was at Tom's of Maine, and we were developing a toothpaste, and we wanted to do it even more naturally. So to backtrack a little bit, when you brush your teeth, many people are used to that very foamy, bubbly experience. And we've seen through focus groups that people believe that it only works if it's bubbling and making this giant, amount of foam in your mouth.
Same with soap.
Soap, all of that.
Yeah, shampoo.
And that 20 years ago was even more.
Yes.
There weren't the options that there are today.
Right.
And so trying to combat that, we found that we had some research scientists on staff, and they did some research and found a material, a licorice extract, that has some benefits in the mouth, but then also had the ability to foam. And it was a more dense foam, but it was there. And that to me was the first time I realized, because we also used sodium lauryl sulfate and these other materials because there weren't natural options available at that time. But this was an alternative. And that was a light bulb moment for me, that even making a natural product, we can even make it more natural and have it be, have it still work. The other was, because this is one that's very hard to do naturally, are things like shampoo, conditioner, and body wash. And coming here at Primally Pure, I was very impressed with our ability to make our body wash using just Castile soap and oil and be able to get that benefit. You have to step outside of the mindset of needing this big foamy experience, but it works. And I loved that. So yeah.
So good. And I think that's where we too try to bring a lot of education with the products, because sometimes natural products can work differently than your conventional options. So just shifting that mindset and that paradigm, like you don't need suds to get that clean effect. Yeah.
What are your best tips for customers who want to avoid greenwashing and they're trying to decipher an ingredient list that has a lot of long scientific sounding words like the one that you said earlier?
Yeah. So I think the best thing to understand with that is if it's a list of botanical ingredients, and maybe this really is an actually fine product, it's natural enough, and they're using herbal products, herbal ingredients, that many companies will actually use the Latin name. And so it can make it look very long and very specific. One example is lavender, lavandula angustifolia, sounds long. It's just lavender, right? But one thing that I would recommend is look towards the bottom of the ingredient list. And one way that is a good tell for me about a product and its naturalness is what the preservative is. If I see parabens, obviously is one. Even phenoxyethanol, there's debate in the cosmetic chemistry world about that one. But if I see those materials, it tells me that it's maybe leaning in a direction that I'm not going to be interested in going. So I recommend looking for preservatives that you're not supportive of. But when it comes to long chemical sounding names, there are some that aren't terrible, or it could just be the technical name for a perfectly fine ingredient. For example, fractionated coconut oil. Fractionated coconut oil is just coconut oil that has had one piece of the oil removed and it makes it liquid all the time. Fractionated coconut oil has another name, caprylic capric triglyceride. That sounds long and chemically.
Sounds intense, yeah.
It's just the chemical name of it.
Yeah.
My name's Tommy, my name's actually Thomasina. It's longer, right? And so I think it's educating yourself again in this world where, to your point, anyone can say that they are natural because there's no natural police. And it's up to the brand to identify what natural means to them and communicate it to their consumer. So in order for you to be able to trust a product, you really need to start to be able to find one that you trust the company.
Yeah. I want to transition to the conversation on fertility. We know that infertility is increasing by 1% every year. It has been for the last 50 years. And as a fertility care practitioner, what role do you think that the products we are using plays in fertility?
Infertility and fertility issues in general are such a complex thing, but the world and the environment that we're in is certainly playing a role. Hormonal birth control came out about 50 years ago, and I have seen personally in my own client base women who were put on the pill as teenagers to maybe address heavy cycles or cramping or any things like that.
Acne. I was put on it for that.
Acne. Who are now really struggling to conceive. And for me, it's heartbreaking because I think if they had had somebody on their care team at that time who could have said, let's address the root cause of what's really going on here, instead of putting a Band-Aid on it, that we then peel off 20 years later, and that root cause is still there. And now we're trying to play catch up. And I do see that. I have had clients who've come to me who've been told they could never have children. And luckily, once we get to the root cause, they've been able to conceive. It's beautiful. So certainly I do see that. And I would like to add, if anyone is ever on the pill or any hormonal contraception like the IUD, give yourself 6 months to try to conceive after you come off of it. And I just want to say that because there's a much more increased risk of miscarriage. So that's just something everyone should know.
Good advice.
Yeah. So, but beyond that, the products that we use, right? So endocrine disruptors. And we think about these materials that are in our environment. I think there's a list of like 800 different endocrine disruptors that are classified as that. The more common ones that we talk about, like phthalates in fragrances and BPA in plastics. Our environment is just, over these last 50 years, become more and more riddled with that. And it's really hard to escape it. And so I can certainly see a role in all of that playing a role in infertility and the rise of those rates.
Yeah, we had a doctor, Dr. Keneally, on the podcast a little while ago, and she described the hormones, our endocrine system, like a symphony, and they all like work together, are designed to work together so perfectly. And we have so many different hormones, more than just, estrogen, progesterone, the things that we typically think of when we think of hormones. There's tons. And if one is even off, just like in a symphony, then it's going to kind of throw everything off. And so when we're just being inundated with so many products or so many ingredients that are known to disrupt hormones, I can just see that playing such a big role over time in this infertility epidemic, along with, what you described. Birth control pill, I think, is huge as well.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely agree.
It's like all those ingredients and then all of the products we apply over all of the days.
Yes.
It's just that that burden that builds over time. So then it does take time then to heal and reverse that. In your work as a fertility coach, what have you observed or seen that's actually impacted your work as a formulator? Do you take that into consideration? How does that impact?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question because I have, a lot of cosmetic chemists, and I don't want to generalize too much, but a lot of them end up probably just being in a lab all day, right? Spending time developing products, which I certainly do. But this is a little thing that I do on Saturday mornings and meet with women. That pulls me out of just living in this world of developing products and puts me face to face with real people, with real issues that they're fighting. And that helps me in my formulating to always remember that I'm addressing not just a beaker full of something, that this is going to be used in a broader way. And so, I think having that touch point with women who are struggling with something health-wise, that products that I'm making, I could make things that would make that worse, or I can make things that'll at least not make it worse and hopefully make it better. So it's a good thing. It's a good reminder. Yeah.
What are some really simple and accessible things that any woman looking to boost fertility could do?
Your diet is something that can help. So it hasn't been studied as much in the fertility care practice that I work with because we've been so focused for the years that this has been developed on getting to root cause, but haven't brought in diet to it yet. I see a big piece there that's missing. Inflammation. I certainly see women who are having inflammatory conditions make cervical issues pop up. Infertility seems to be improved when you take on an anti-inflammatory diet. Women who are struggling with PCOS. I think trying to adopt an anti-inflammatory lifestyle would be a really good place to start.
Yeah, I love that.
So I am just in awe of how these two worlds have collided for you. And you spoke a bit about your formulation background and that journey, but I would love to hear your fertility background and what drew you to that and then that training and what that looked like.
Yeah, I'm in awe of it too, because I never would have seen, frankly, either of these paths. Like you start your life and you don't know where it's going to go. But I had been using the version of natural family planning in my own life for a number of years. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I felt this call that I should be teaching it. I had just left my full-time position, so I had this much time in my schedule. So I promptly filled it with something else.
As we do.
As we all do. And so I started down this journey and I became, it was about an 18-month allied health program that I went through. I didn't actually know that's what I was signing up for at the beginning. I just wasn't paying attention to how long this is going to take, but I'm so grateful. It was highly intense. I spent 2 different weeks, 1 week at a time, off-site in Omaha, getting trained actually by the founder of this method, the Creighton method, and he's the man who developed it in the 70s, and he's still teaching today, or he was.
What is the Creighton method?
Yeah, so it's one of the kind of big players in the natural family planning world. And it's a method that was developed by an OBGYN, Dr. Hilgers, in the 70s, and it has become his life work. And it is a method that observes certain biomarkers that a woman's body will give as she moves through her cycle every month. And so we're able to see, I see these changes in my body, and I won't go into so many details, but I see changes and things that are happening. And that tells me that I'm nearing ovulation and now I'm coming away from it. We as women we're spicy, and for a reason, because we're hormonally different every day than we were the day before. Biochemically in our bodies, we do this throughout the month. Guys are pretty testosterone, right? We're designed to be that way, and it's beautiful. And so what I love about this method is that it's working with the way that our bodies are designed instead of pushing against it and thinking that it's just an annoyance. It's let's work with it, and it's just a healthier way to approach yourself. So the Creighton model uses that. And then as a scientist, I was blown away during my training at the amount of research, journal publications, everything that has been done in the Creighton model over these last 40 to 50 years with women's reproductive health. So not just saying that this method will help you avoid pregnancy or achieve pregnancy without taking any medications or anything. It's just strictly natural. It also is the method, the go-to method for helping women uncover underlying health issues and addressing them. And then a medical science has been attached to it to help treat. So I work hand in hand with a medical doctor, a physician, who has taken the extra training in this method to treat patients that I send to her who I see have underlying problems that I am recognizing, and she's able to treat them. And she sends people to me who she needs to have go through this training and charting their cycles so that then she can heal them. So that it took about 18 months and it was pretty intense, but it's been beautiful.
As I'm hearing you talk about this, I just keep thinking about how all of this information is kind of becoming more well known just in recent years, but you were so far ahead with learning this when you did, and you were really ahead with natural products as well. But has it been cool for you to see this information and, this whole conversation about cycle syncing and working with your cycle and how these hormonal changes can impact our bodies at different points within our cycle? Has it been exciting to see that kind of come to the forefront now?
Yeah, I absolutely love it, because for so long the conversation was around, there wasn't a conversation around it, right? And it was just kind of putting your fertility to a side and putting the way that our bodies are designed to work aside. It's an annoyance.
Pushing through.
We don't want to think about it. And I love that there's like a million apps out there for tracking your cycle now. I see those as a huge benefit because it shows that there's an awareness, right? I do always say to clients, don't trust those if you're trying to necessarily avoid pregnancy, because they may not go as deep as you need it to, but in trying to conceive, it can be super helpful, or just to track your cycle, like you said, and sync up your life. It just gives an awareness that, look, it's easy to just go day by day, month after month, and not really pay attention to what your body is doing. But tracking your cycle every single day, you understand that deeper rhythm that really impacts your whole body. Estrogen, progesterone. Like, our bodies are designed to be cyclical. And so I love seeing that. My teenage daughters use apps to track, and I just think it's great.
Do you have a favorite app?
So in the method that I use, it's old school. It's a paper chart, but I actually love it because I have all the charts back. So I have 5 daughters, all the way back to the beginning, and I can look at it and say, oh, this is when I conceived Anna, or this is when I conceived Audrey, or Liz, or Eva, or Ainsley. And so I love that I can do that. That's maybe a silly thing. We do also have an app in this method. I just prefer, on paper.
That's really cool.
I'm still a paper girl too.
Yeah. I use an app. I think, like the Flow app or something.
Yeah, there's some really good ones.
Yeah, and I love just thinking about it as information and something to be aware of. Like, I don't necessarily organize my whole life around my cycle. I'm not really able to do that. I think if you are, that's great. Yeah. But I'm not always able to. But I think just kind of knowing where you're at and giving yourself grace, when you're on your period, if you have like something big going on, just like having that information of like why you're feeling this way is helpful.
I want to add to that. Yes, perfect example. Just last night in the hotel room talking to my husband, And he said, very lovingly, I just want you to know you're doing this podcast tomorrow, and I want you to recognize where you are in your cycle. So this is a communication part for us. And
I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah. So
he's not giving me those reminders. except right before he'll ask me, are you getting close?
Well, that's what he recognizes that. And he said, I know that this can be a time for you that sometimes you might be a little less patient. Like, he was trying to be very gentle, right? But I want you to just give yourself extra time in the morning and really be able to prepare yourself and give yourself the space. And
Can you do a coaching call with Jeff? Does he offer that?
I know. Yeah, he's
amazing. Actually, a midwife that I know and love, she has her husband on an app, so he knows where she is on her cycle.
I cannot vouch for that more. And I say that to all of my clients because it's usually a husband and a wife coming in. The more that you are aware of what's going on with her, you can support her in times when you know she might be struggling. Now, it doesn't give us license to be terrible just because we're in a difficult time of our cycle. What it does is it gives us the space to recognize, maybe I need to take a bath. Maybe I need to go for a walk. Take care of myself a little bit better in this time of my cycle. And so you do sync up your life that way and recognize that I'm cyclical. This is going to go away in another week or so. But for now, I need to be more gentle and intentional with myself. So, and I think that having your spouse have access and understand what it means when they look at your app or your chart, it just brings intimacy to your relationship, which is always a good thing.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna start to wrap things up on a really lighthearted, fun note. I have some questions. Courtney and I have some questions that all three of us are going to give our thoughts on. You guys ready?
Okay.
Yeah, so fun.
Okay. What has been the hardest product for you to transition to a non-toxic version?
Me first?
Go for it. Yeah.
I always think with my cosmetic chemist hat, shampoo and conditioner. So hard to find ones or make them. I've had a hard time being able to make them to the standard that I would want.
What do you use right now? I'm curious.
I use basic whatever I can find. Like it's actually one thing that I'm struggling with. And so I would love to make one. Let's do it.
Oh my gosh, we get so many requests for you.
I love that.
Like one of the top things that people ask for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
That would be great.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We've got a lot coming up, but
We do.
who knows? Maybe we'll be able to
Someday.
just casually squeeze that in. What about you, Court?
Honestly, this one's a little bit hard for me because working with Primally Pure, I feel like it's been so easy to swap everything because everything we make is so effective and I'm obsessed. So I think, honestly, what's been tough for me in that world of like non-toxic natural is my closet. So my clothes, like I want to take steps towards more natural materials and ethical manufacturing, and it's just a slow, long process. And so that's something that's on my mind and something I want to keep moving towards.
Well, you are always so good. Like you get a lot of things, or you have in the past thrifted.
Yes.
Like you find the best stuff that way. And clothing is tough though, because there's a reality to the fact that more ethically made things do cost more. I mean, as with anything, but I feel like especially in fashion, fast fashion is just so cheap that anything ethically made seems like such a big leap to take. But I mean, it's definitely important, but it's a slower process. Yeah, so I was thinking deodorant because, I mean, obviously I've transitioned now, but that is really what started this whole obsession for me of getting into natural products. It was deodorant, and it was me like wanting to create a natural deodorant that was effective and that worked. And then once I did that, the process wasn't too bad, but it, like most people, I was a little bit extra sweaty, extra smelly for several weeks, and then things kind of normalized, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. But that's why I started Primally Pure. So it was because of that challenge.
Oh, that's great. And to get your hubby on board.
Yes. Yeah, that was even more of a challenge.
How do you guys feel about coffee enemas or colonics? I feel like I know how Bethany feels. But
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I I like coffee enemas. I've talked about coffee enemas a lot before. I think like with anything, you can take them to the extreme. I'm not someone who does coffee enemas every single day. In fact, I haven't done one in a long time, to be honest. Like I get on kicks with it, like a lot of things, and then I'll kind of take a break for a while. So I've been on a long break from coffee enemas, but I think they're great. I think that they're great for stimulating your body's own production of glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant. Stimulates your glutathione production by like 100 times. So really powerful for that. I do get coffee colonics now when I go in for a colonic. And to me, it's just that kind of covers that base for me. So that's what I've been gravitating towards more recently. But I think you can take it too far also.
Yeah. This is so interesting to me. So I've not done it. I'm open to the idea. I couldn't do coffee though. I can't drink coffee. I am sensitive to not the caffeine. It's the theobromine in it. It's a whole thing.
Oh, okay.
I can't drink coffee and I love it. But so I would be
interesting.
Very like my body doesn't metabolize it.
Yeah. If
so
it was a concern with the caffeine, I would say don't worry about it. It's totally different.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the.
I know.
Yeah.
And so I would be concerned, but I would be open to one of the other. Like if it didn't have coffee in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've only done it one time, and it was a water enema because it was on a detox retreat, and the woman facilitating it said that coffee could sometimes be too stimulating, maybe. So we just did water, and then I went home with the kit, and it's been sitting in my cabinet ever since, and that was years ago. So that's how I feel about that.
It's a bit of a process. I was like voice texting my friend as I was doing it the first time, like. You got to kind of figure it out, and then once you get the hang of it, it becomes easier.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the most adventurous thing that you guys have ever done?
When I was 19, I backpacked around Italy with my sister, and just like
so cool.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And the cool thing about it was she is an art conservator, so she had gone to college to learn about all art history and then how to conserve that. And so she was actually on her way to Greece for 2 weeks to do conservation at the Parthenon in Greece, right? So interesting. But she said, you want to go like trek around Italy with me for 2 weeks? And so backpack, youth hostels, the whole thing, like staying, it was amazing. It was really fun. Saw Pompeii and Rome and Naples and all the things. Venice was my favorite. So.
Amazing. Yeah. It's like the quintessential young adult
19.
experience.
Oh my gosh. My daughter just turned 18. I would be horrified if she wanted to do that in a year. Like, I just feel like times have changed and maybe I'm just old now. But I just, it was crazy. It was
so fun.
Yeah.
Mine also kind of involves travel. Most adventurous thing I think this was like 12 years ago. I rock up to the airport thinking I was going to pull like a Friends situation, like on the show Friends, when they would like run up to the airport and like, I need the next ticket out of here to wherever. And so I
always works in the movies, right?
Literally, come to find out that's not how it actually works in real life at all. So I show up to the airport knowing that a flight was leaving in like 2 hours. I didn't have a plane ticket, and I had no money in my bank account at the time.
How old were you?
This was in 2012. So I was 25.
Oh my gosh.
So I show up, no plane ticket, no money in my account, and end up getting on this plane to Cape Town, South Africa in 2 hours.
Oh my gosh.
And that was just crazy when I tell that story. People are like, how did that happen?
Yeah, how? You have to explain.
Oh my gosh. So it is kind of a long story.
Well, how did you get on a plane with no money?
No money. How did you do it?
To buy the ticket?
So my sister was
Because people are going to draw their own conclusions, and I think you need to describe.
Okay, I'll try to condense. So my sister was studying abroad in Cape Town, and I hadn't seen her in like a year and a half. So I was like desperate to go see my sister, and she was on the phone trying to book the ticket because I was at the airport, but you can't book online when the flight is leaving in 2 hours. So my sister was like on the phone with the person at the airlines trying to make it work. Like she's already there. She can literally get on the plane. And then my sweet grandma calls me because she's like, I heard you were trying to get to South Africa. I'm so sorry it's not working out, honey. And I was like, I know, I'm literally sitting at the airport with my bags packed. And she just like freaked out. She was like, what? You're at the airport? We need to make this happen. Anyway, she was like, here's my credit card. You can put on my credit card.
Oh, so grandma saved the day.
Yes, it like sounds like a crazy thing, but ultimately my sweet gram just like, here's my card, put it on there.
Yeah.
But the fact that my sister
amazing.
in South Africa was on the phone with the airline attendant And then my grandma gave me her card, and somehow we worked it all out that I could get paid for it and work out. So then went to South Africa for 5 days, and it was the most incredible 5 days of my life. So faith, show up, just show up.
So cool.
And doors can open.
That's right. That's really good. Mine was probably climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in college, went to Africa on a missions trip, and then we did a little side adventure on Kilimanjaro, made it to the top. That was, one of the coolest things I've ever done, for sure.
How long was the hike?
Amazing.
Like 6 days.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So like hiking in and then.
Yeah, they make you, it's the tallest freestanding mountain in the world. It's 19,000 feet. So you can't just like go up quickly, even if physically you can. It's the altitude, like ascending that much is just not good for the body. And even at our slow pace, like half of our group didn't make it because of symptoms related to altitude, like altitude sickness type stuff.
Yeah.
So they just really emphasize taking it slow and letting your body acclimate. But I still remember that last day before the summit push, we slept at 14,000 feet. So that's like the height of Mount Everest, or not Mount Everest, Mount Whitney, Mount Whitney in California. So it's like you're sleeping basically at the top of Mount Whitney. And I remember just getting like dressed because we woke up at 12 a.m. to do the summit push. Wow. So that last day we did cover quite a bit of ground, starting at midnight so that you could make it to the top by sunrise. But I just remember being like out of breath, tying my shoes and getting my boots on and like all the gear, because even just doing anything at that altitude is like, takes a lot out of you. Yeah, but it was beautiful, like getting to the top at sunrise with all the glaciers. It was so cool.
What was the most impactful book you guys have read?
The Bible. I mean, and I'm not done. I'll keep reading it.
Yeah. Is there one part that is the most meaningful, or like that has impacted you the most from it?
You know what's so interesting? I'm one of those people, I'm very curious and love reading Revelation. I just find it so interesting and trying to like think about it, how it plays into our life and everything. So yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought you might say that. Did you? I thought about putting a disclaimer on this question because all three of us are Christians. We would probably say that, yeah. But that's great. Aside from the Bible, I would say Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Caroline Leaf. Have you read that one?
I have started. I
So good.
have started several books. That's one of them. But
Life-changing, just about your thoughts and having healthy thought patterns and the impacts that your thoughts have on your beliefs and your behavior. Yeah, really good, really
Which is
practical.
so cool because she is on our Primally Pure expert panel,
Yeah,
which is amazing.
yeah, she's great.
Yeah. Mine would have to be The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer. It truly just speaks to how distraction and hurry and hustle is so detrimental to the development of our soul. And I feel like for me, that like has to become like an annual read and just be that regular reminder on slowing down and actually Sabbathing, because it can just get so easy to get caught up in the hurry. So highly, highly recommend. And the way he writes, it's so easy and he's so relevant, and highly recommend.
Are you guys animal lovers, and do you think that animals should be treated like a member of the family?
Yes, I love my dogs. They're crazy. As like, these dogs here, I love them. Yes, I love dogs especially, and we have two. So.
What about you, Courtney?
This question makes me laugh. I think I can't truly answer this question because I didn't grow up with family pets so much. Only like a stint with a dog that ran away every week and ended up we never saw him again, which is so sad. And then like a couple guinea pigs.
Like ran away, quote?
Oh, that's like another story. Yes, come to find out he had been found and our parents were like, we will pay you to keep the dog. Like, we don't want it back. It just was, kind of a headache, unfortunately. So I haven't had the most positive pet experiences. Love animals, but more like horses and elephants. Not from like a pet perspective.
Yeah.
So I think it would be sweet to have that experience, but...
I think if you grew up with them, that has a lot to do with your outlook on this, because I didn't really grow up with pets either. I had smaller pets, like I had a bunny. I loved animals, like loved catching animals, loved being with animals, and I still like animals a lot. Like I like them at the farm. I don't necessarily want them in my house. I don't, I just taking care of one more thing right now would sound like just way too much. My kids already keep me busy enough. So I like that we can come to the farm and experience the animals, but but then they kind of stay there.
You never brought any of the little piggies home back in the day?
No, never did. No, just enjoyed them in their natural habitat.
So perfect. What is your favorite way to spend a weekend?
Well, with 5 girls, we're pretty busy. Usually it's just time with them. I meet my clients on Saturday mornings, so doing that, and then having time with family and friends, and then church on Sunday and rest if I can to start the new week.
What do your girls like to do? What are some of the things
They're in all the things. In the Midwest, show choir is a big deal, and so all of my girls are interested and perform in show choir. They are in musicals. We have a pretty musical family, so they're in musicals.
So fun.
All that stuff. So yeah, softball, busy. Yeah,
I can only imagine.
yeah.
So we're in the midst of soccer season. Like fall is like soccer season for my kids, and my husband coaches our oldest daughter's team. So that's kind of like the mode I'm in right now. And I'm so excited. I love like cool mornings on the soccer field, like bringing my beverage, my coffee, having my chair, and just kind of like relaxing while the kids play with each other. It's like the best way to start the weekend. And then,
Mom.
what?
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
It's great. It's a good thing.
It's fun for a season, and then towards the end of it, it's like, okay, I'm ready to just kind of relax and not get up at, for an 8 a.m. game. But it's fun while it lasts. So I love doing that on Saturday mornings, and then just kind of relaxing the rest of the day. Sometimes like maybe driving out to the coast to go to the beach. And then Sunday mornings we do church. We always do a big brunch afterwards with my husband's family. He's one of 5 kids, and they're all local, and there's 13, soon to be 14 grandkids in the family, and so they just play all afternoon, and then I usually sneak away back home with my youngest for him to take a nap, and that is like one of my favorite chunks of time all week, because I just get sometimes 2 hours, usually not. It's like 1 to 2 hours of just kind of solitude, and Jeff and the kids are, the other 2 kids are at his parents' house, and I can just kind of relax and maybe read or take a nap myself. Yeah.
Love that. Cool.
How about you?
I think that's what weekends are for.
Yeah.
Like slowing down. Farmers market, coffee dates with girlfriends,
Fun.
swimming in the ocean for sure. Our church meets Sunday afternoon, which I actually love because growing up it was always Sunday morning.
Yeah.
So I actually can have like a slow Sunday morning.
Do you still go in the ocean in the winter?
Not as frequently. Probably no. I should because of the whole cold plunge aspect in alignment with my cycle.
Yeah.
But that is something I want to do more consistently, actually.
Have you read Wim Hof's book
I
or listened to him? You should read that one. It's good.
Does he only
I think it's just called, it's just called like Wim Hof.
Okay, yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
On audio book maybe.
Yeah.
What is a goal you're working on right now?
Go ahead.
For me, it's trying to get to an underlying cause. I think I've got some like hormonal stuff that I've got to figure out too. So battled some heavy like health stuff a few years ago, and I just want to try to like detox and cleanse. I'm really interested in cellular detox and all of that right now. So I'm really starting this journey.
Love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to get there.
What about you, Court?
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear how that goes for you.
I will hopefully have some good answers for you.
A goal I'm working on, actually, I really want to create like practical ways to support other professionals in the holistic skin space. So that's a dream that's been on my heart for a while. And then just like a little side like writing project, like a little poetry piece.
I'm working on my fitness. I think that's a song. Is that like a rap song? Working on, like, I feel like that's like a Black Eyed Peas something that Fergie has
You
said.
would know.
Working on my fitness. But really, I want to get back into tennis. I used to play a lot of tennis before I had my 3rd child, and I want to get back into that. I've started to get back into lifting weights, which I think is really important, especially as we get older. And just hopefully making both of those a part of my life long term. Like, I think that we forget to play as adults, and that's what I love about tennis is that you get caught up in this place of just like playing and having fun, but also being active physically and benefiting from it that way.
Love that.
So fun.
Yeah.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
What is your favorite Primally Pure product?
Oh, I know mine. Soothing cream. Love it. That's my favorite. Smells amazing. Works amazing. I just love it. Yeah.
It's a good one.
I literally just yesterday in my facial treatment, I blended the soothing cream with the antioxidant balm,
Ooh.
and it was insane.
Really?
Yes.
That's a cool idea.
I was like, I think this
never think
needs
to
be
try
a thing now. So now with my soothing cream at home, I'm going to start blending it with the antioxidant balm.
What color was it
yeah.
when you put them together? Red and blue makes purple, right? Was it purple?
purple-ish.
It just kind of like blended into like that little oily. I didn't see a color when I blended them.
Well,
but
it's
like,
dark probably in the
Yeah.
facial
the
room,
lighting
right?
definitely is low, but like the way it felt on her skin and the way it just, I don't know.
Oh, I'm gonna
So now
try
I'm
that.
obsessed with
try
that.
it.
Yeah. Soothing cream.
Yeah, I love that.
I always say deodorant. I feel like we already talked about that a little bit. It's the first product that I ever formulated. It holds a special place in my heart. But I'm going to say cleansing oil. I think it's so foundational. Using the oil cleansing method really changed the health of my skin when I started doing that. So I love that product.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
That's good.
I feel like this is an impossible one to answer because there's so many. But similarly, actually, the plumping cream is my fave, especially since we've added the bakuchiol to it and the jasmine. I feel like the aroma I'm obsessed with. It's so floral and fresh. And I just want bakuchiol on my skin all the time. And then the
Bakuchiol is a natural retinol alternative for anyone who isn't familiar with that ingredient. So it has shown to be just as effective as retinol in studies, and it doesn't come with the sensitizing effects that retinol has.
Yes.
It's a great ingredient.
Exactly. And because retinol too, you have to work your way up to using it and just use it at night. And bakuchiol we can use morning and night. And so using that cream.
Well, thank you so much, Tommi, for being here, making the trip. It's been so fun chatting with you in this setting. You just have so much knowledge in so many different areas, and it's really such a blessing to have you on the team and to know you as a person as well.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really, really love working here, and I've loved being able to be here today and talk to you guys about the things I'm passionate about.
And I feel like we need to do a part 2 because there's so much more to uncover and dig deep about with you.
Yeah, maybe something on parenting with the 5 daughters.
And marriage and getting them synced up with your
Exactly.
Husband sinking.
Yeah. Thanks, Tommi.
All right. Thanks.